And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Do monsters love candy? Obviously. That's the name of this game here, Kingdoms Candy Monsters. You are collecting monsters who have a sweet tooth, and they're going to be eating candy, and it's your job to use this candy to buy more monsters and then feed more candy to those same monsters. This is a little bit of an engine building game as you get cards that will give you special abilities that help you get more cards, which give you special abilities to help you get more cards. But it's not tremendously long. Let's take a look. Each player starts with a starting monster. They're pretty much all the same, although there's 3 different candy types that are available in the game, so each of your monsters will start with that. That candy type doesn't have a number in it, which just means it's a value of 1, so this monster is worth 1 point. At the beginning of a player's turn, all green question marks, exclamation points happen, and so this one gained 2 sugar. I'll get every turn, and that's what this Sweet Cave does. I just have it on a 2, so I don't have to look at all my cards. I just keep track of how much sugar I'm going to get per turn. In each round of the game, starting with the start player, each player is going to take a turn. First, you do all your green exclamation marks. Then you have different actions that you can take. So one of the actions you can take is just to steal sugar. When that happens, you're going to take 5 sugar from the bank. If the bank is empty, which is highly doubtful because there's a lot of sugar in the bank, you can take it from another player if someone's been hoarding. The second thing that you can do is you can buy a monster. So there are different monsters here. When you buy one, you'll replace it with the top monster from the deck. Now, buying a monster has a cost up here, and so this one costs 5. They have a feeding cost, which we'll talk about in a bit, and then they're worth a certain number of points with a candy type. They'll also give you a special ability here at the bottom. So this here shows me whenever I buy an ability card, that's in this row, you can see the star there, I can also remove 2 of the black sugar cubes if I have them. So monsters will have various ability types. Speaking of abilities, you can buy an ability, and it's the same thing as buying a monster. There's a cost here at the top, except there's 2 things you can do with it. First of all, you can stick it on a monster to increase that monster's abilities. So this Cat Drogo here, when I buy an ability card, I can remove 2 black cubes, and whenever I buy a monster, I'll get 2 sugar cubes. Or I can stick it as an ability card above my Sweet Cave. This does a few things. First of all, it's worth 3 points at the end of the game. If I had stuck this Dungeons and Monsters one there, this would also be worth 3 points. 1, 2, 3. These also will decrease the cost of future monsters. So this, if I have both of these ability cards here, all monsters of this candy type would cost 2 less. Monsters of the other 2 candy types would cost 1 less, although they can never go below 0. After everyone has chosen an action, you're going to turn over the top event card. This event is going to happen. So this says players can each discard a monster they control to get 3 candy. Candy in this game is victory points, so maybe that's worth it. Now, in every 3 cards here, they're shuffled one of these. It's time to feed your monsters. So each player must feed all their monsters. Now, you can decide not to feed a monster, but if you do so, you'll discard it along with any ability cards underneath it. If you do decide to feed your monsters, you pay however much it shows here. So this monster, for example, needs to eat 3. This monster needs to eat 1 for each monster you have. So if I have these 2 monsters, I need to pay 5 sugar. For each one I don't have, I'll take a black sugar, which is worth negative points at the end of the game. Although on your turn, once per turn, you can get rid of a black cube by spending 2 white cubes. These cards will be laid out here in a row as you turn them over, and when the 4th black card has been turned over, the game will end. There's a few other things that players need to keep track of. If you have monsters of the same color, the same candy type, you'll get bonus sugar cubes, and if you have 1 of each color, you'll get bonus points, candy points per round. And influence here, I already mentioned that you pay 1 less for candy of the same color, and if you have 1 of each color influence on the influence section, you will also gain candy points that way. So candy points are one. You'll collect these over the course of the game, and you'll get points for that. But monsters are also going to be worth victory points based on the top corner here. So this monster, that's an ability, sorry. This monster here is just 1 point, but sometimes they'll be worth more than that. Influence, if you've stuck it underneath your sweet cave, will be worth the points that's listed on the candies. Each tucked ability that you put under a monster is worth a single victory point. These candy tokens I mentioned are point. Sugar cubes, 4 of them equal 1 point, but every black sugar cube is minus 1 point. And there's also a few end game bonuses. Whoever has the most points is the winner. Component-wise, we got the white cubes and the black cubes. That's pretty easy in the candy. It's the different artwork on the cards. I think every monster is different. It's kind of weird because they have a little bit of a cuteness to them, but they're also a little creepy. You know, I played this with my kids, and they thought some of the monsters were cute, and like, you know, they said this one was kind of cute, but they also thought some of the monsters were really, really weird. Like, look at that one. That's just these are freaky little monsters. She seems nicer. But I do like the artwork here. It has its own distinctive style. Card quality could be better, but overall, the components are fine. Now this game has a few things I think that could have made it better. I wonder that the game is a little too short. At the longest, I believe it would be 12 rounds, which means you're going to buy 12 cards, so you have to be very cautious. There's a lot of things in play here that I think might have done better long term. For example, taking a card and tucking it under the ability to give you a discount on monsters, that's helpful, but you may only buy 1 or 2 monsters of that type. So that has a very Splendor feel to it. There's a game called Splendor that does something similar, but in Splendor it's going to happen many, many times. Here, not quite as many times. That being said, I really do enjoy the concept of taking the ability card and giving a monster a special ability, which is fun. It's fun to give this monster several special abilities, and you only have to feed that monster 1 time. But those special abilities don't translate into points. They're 1 point each. While if you tuck it under the top of the card, it could be 1 to 3 points and give you a discount on buying monsters. That is a good choice that you have to make. It's a tough choice. Then what monsters are you going to buy? There's some bonuses, like if you have Oni monsters, having multiple Oni monsters is good. But for the most part, you're just sitting there making sure that you have enough sugar, because you can tell that there's a black card you know is in every 3 cards. So if it shows up for the first card, you know for sure that the next 2 cards you don't have to feed. Do you have to feed that next card though? So there's a little bit sometimes of maybe pushing your luck, like, I'll buy another monster. There's only a 1 out of 3 chance I'll have to feed this turn. But if you do have to feed, boom, now suddenly you're in trouble taking those black cubes. And since there isn't a ton of victory points in this game, those black cubes can be pretty deadly. But as the game goes by, you get your engine going, and I think it might end a little bit sooner, like I said, as I'm like, ooh, I'm starting to do cool things, game's over. But that does keep it in a nice filler range. Now, like I said, the artwork has this little bit of macabre feel to it, but not too much. So I don't think this is going to scare kids away, and because of that, I think this makes a pretty solid family game. The collecting the monsters and the sugar and the stuff, and there's not a ton of player interaction, the tiniest bit, but also I'll buy the monster that you want to buy. It's quick, it's pretty simple. You're buying a monster, taking sugar, which sometimes you have to do, you need that extra sugar, or buying an ability and then choosing where to put that. Some nice decisions, and it's going to be different each game because you never know what cards are going to come out in what order. It feels a little bit different than other things that are out there, and because of that, I want to try it some more. So that's Kingdoms Candy Monsters. I'm Tom Vasel. You've been watching the Dice Tower. Dice Tower Judgment approved.